it's actually interesting. Like a lot of people keep asking me, like, is Saylor running a Ponzi scheme? And the answer is no, because he's just leveraging the fiat to hold on to the Bitcoin. Now, there are, of course, concerns because he's not holding on to the Bitcoin private keys, which is a big concern of mine. So it could look like he's in a Ponzi scheme if all of a sudden he can't access the Bitcoin that he thinks that he owns, and suddenly he's got to pay something back and he can't get access to it, and suddenly it looks and feels like a Ponzi scheme. But in general, I mean, I hope he's advising these sovereign wealth funds to actually hold on to their private keys because they can. I mean, he's not holding on to the Bitcoin for perhaps some legal reasons or corporate reasons or whatever the reason is. But my bigger concern is, I mean, this is all great, but if you're not holding on to your own private keys, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Now, very few people are completely crazy to have all of their wealth in Bitcoin. I mean, there's probably, it's possible that it's 4 for 4 on this show, but in general, that is a bad idea. I personally would never advise a sovereign wealth fund to put everything into Bitcoin. Maybe 10%, 20%, maybe as much as 30%. But I wouldn't go all in because there are other obligations, and bear markets do happen, and they can happen unpredictably. And not to mention that what we just went through, right? Everyone thought we were going to go higher. Bitcoin fell about 35% from 109,000 down to 72. And if you're the person that got in at 105 thinking that it's going to 200, you're probably the one selling at 75, and suddenly it's back to 103 again. So I always tell people to ease into it until you get the confidence that it's okay to hold on to more than you probably should have originally. It does pay off in the long run, but you need the confidence in the Bitcoin ecosystem that you can hold through the bear markets. And someone that got convinced by some guy on a podcast to buy more than you should, you're not going to have the confidence to hold through a downturn of 20%. So I would advise a little bit differently, but Saylor is Saylor. So it's, hey, it's good for all of us if a multi-billion-dollar sovereign wealth fund goes all in. It's great for us. It's just I would be a little more rational about this.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FITSCRIPT. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan, nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FITSCRIPT and see what's possible. BJ, are you one of the 4 for 4 crazies? 100% in, or where are you at? And I guess to the topic at hand, what's your general feel on the idea of sovereign wealth funds, nation states, like entering the Bitcoin game? Because you and I had our foray with governments, and we were able to utilize Bitcoin in a way to get around draconian overreach. And now we see governments saying, we should own some of this. So like, what's your general feel here?
Yeah, it's interesting. You never think you'd be in this place. Let me backtrack a little bit. For the past several months, I've been giving talks in the US, particularly Florida, with people who are, let's say, adjacent and some of them involved in the Trump administration. And this is a good example of, many of what we see are good examples of if you know the news stories, that doesn't really tell anything. You got to know who's behind the news. And one of the things I've learned is that Jared Kushner, who is very close, he's like the most senior advisor to Trump behind the scenes. He knows everything about Bitcoin and crypto and that whole space. He is well versed and has been well versed for quite some time. And he also is very close personal friends with MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And that's why you're seeing a lot of this movement. In terms of Saylor saying put everything in, I mean, him and Trump both do this very well, using hyperbole as a persuasion tactic. And I think that's what you're seeing. In terms of governments custodying Bitcoin in their sovereign wealth fund, honestly, I don't care. I mean, it's good for Bitcoin. It's great for us. If the government makes money or not, I could really care less at this point. As long as it's not a tool of leverage that they can use against us, which we all know can't be because of the nature of Bitcoin and its decentralized properties and nobody controls. So, okay, good, fine. I really have a problem with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, BJ, I couldn't agree more. I was never on the let's get government to buy Bitcoin train. Like all of these state bills that are coming out, and like I don't care. Like I actually don't care. It was the same view when Software came out, the book that what's his name wrote that. Jason Lowery's book, right? Like I didn't read the book, but I knew about the book. I know what the book's about. I don't need to read it. And I remember what's his name, Greg Foss. That apparently, like, for Greg Foss, that was like the greatest thing ever written. And I remember how high he was in that book. And I said straight up, I'm on the other side of this argument, and I never really cared about that book. And my argument was very, very simple. Jason Lowery is a military person, and he views the world that the U.S. military is a force of good, and he wrote a book to help the U.S. military, be stronger by acquiring Bitcoin. And my argument was, I see the U.S. military as a force of evil, and the last thing I want to do is help the U.S. military be stronger. I really don't care for that. So I'm not in a rush to get governments to buy more Bitcoin. Bitcoin will do its thing no matter what. So couldn't agree more.
Will, I want to get your thoughts on everything that's been said here.
I mean, buy it all is what he said. It takes me back to so many friends and family gatherings over the years after, probably too many drinks, getting down to it. How much should I buy? Just buy it all. If I didn't have it on good authority that they were already seriously in it, accumulating Bitcoin in that area of the world, I would say Saylor just went on state television and just did a remarkable job, Jedi mind tricking the sovereigns to just YOLO into Bitcoin. He always, I think, is very effective in that way. But I think you mentioned an interesting point is that, you look at the top sovereign wealth funds and you have Netherlands, also an oil producing country, but one that said no to Bitcoin. But what do they say? They said yes to MicroStrategy. They said yes to Saylor. And I think half of this is really about, hey, if I get them to buy Bitcoin, excellent. But there's a really good chance that people are going to fall short and they're going to say, hey, I think it makes more sense for us to buy strategy. And I think he knows it well. I think you couldn't have a larger buyer of your equity. And, he gets to remain on brand, on narrative, saying buy Bitcoin. But, functionally, a lot of these sovereigns, and we're seeing at, corporate level as well, we're seeing it on Bitcoin Twitter as well. Some people would open their brokerage and just would prefer to buy a leveraged Bitcoin equity on the stock. And so I know there's a little bit of self-servingness going on there. But, overall, we talk about keys. A lot of criticism on Saylor. Does he hold the keys or not? He's given it all the way to Coinbase. I think it enters an entirely new level when you have sovereigns thinking about saving or investing in Bitcoin. You cannot have a sovereign country who is letting essentially a corporation of one of the largest, most powerful country on earth hold the keys. I think it becomes an interesting question of, how can you even make this call when you're not holding the keys as a sovereign and you're letting a US based corporation like Coinbase do it? Now, Michael Saylor is an American with an American company, so maybe we can, let that slide. But I think at the sovereign level, it's almost inexcusable not to hold your keys in that way for, especially to your own, your own citizens when making that type of choice. And so it's going to be interesting who's going to be demanding it. I'm not sure. Like BJ was talking about, who's behind really pushing these decisions. A lot of them are going to help glide path these and actually how are they going to be done? How are they going to be bought? Where is it going to be stored? And I don't know if anyone's making the case that the Saudis or, you name it, sovereign country should be holding their keys because there's massive risk, at Coinbase. And today, I think Coinbase just came out and said they have over 20% of Bitcoin supply or something insane. I forget what it was, 13%, maybe something like that, hundreds of thousands. And they, I think that's going to be a question that whether we're asking that now, there's going to be some hard lessons to learn in the future. Not long ago, international gold reserve and the war kicked off. It's an inexcusable thing to let your country be exposed to that risk when you're making that big of a decision.
Yeah. It's again, like as soon as the U.S. said to Russia, hey, we're freezing any of your assets, we're freezing your dollars and everything, like that set the precedent moving forward. Like, hey, if you're going to hold anything, then you've got to have custody of it. So yeah, I totally get that. I would echo what everybody's saying. A lot of people I'll often see in the comments, like, why are we celebrating corporations and countries getting into Bitcoin? And my answer to that is that I'm not necessarily celebrating that they are getting into Bitcoin. I'm celebrating that game theory is playing out. And it's pretty obvious that what we thought was coming, in that Bitcoin was going to be an important part of the world, is very clearly playing out. And we're seeing indications of that from, people whose job it is to try and retain purchasing power or grow purchasing power, right? Like that's their very job. And so, yeah, I think this will continue to play out. And it's just one of my favorite things to ruin somebody's quote or try to paraphrase it. But Jeff Booth always says, like, one of the most difficult things about being in Bitcoin is understanding and being okay with the fact that your enemy using Bitcoin actually makes it better and stronger for yourself. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC Sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.